someone covering me. I'm harnessing the light again.
That's a sneak peek of the next music video from Sally Stockwell's album, Little Triggers. The record is due out on Friday, so we caught up with the acclaimed musician, actor, and theater maker, who's now based in Christchurch, to talk about how Little Triggers came together.
I've been writing the songs for probably the last 9 years. There were more songs, but of course, with a record, you select the strongest ones, and those strongest ones, most of them made it through to my theatre show. We've got so much to talk about, which I toured throughout New Zealand last year, and there were. I could only kind of crowbar about 7 of those songs into the show, and even some of those were truncated or merged into, what do you call it, like songs that blend little. Wasn't
like
really
a medley.
I hate that word, but it was more like a merger where we mushed some songs, or we only had half of a song, so it was a way to get the songs in there, and also they needed to have relevancy to the narrative of the show. But of course, with an album, it's different. You can put what you like in there, and so the songs were treated completely differently with a different producer. So I worked with Eden Mulholland, who I've worked with years ago, a couple of times actually. We worked together about 20 years ago on a theatre dance piece, and I've always really admired his talents and his ability to kind of work with any genre of music. And he's exciting and dynamic and raw, and he kind of just moves through so much music. He's quite prolific, especially in the live theatre and dance scenes, as well as his own music, the music industry as well. So I really liked working with somebody who was multidisciplinary and understood the kind of place I was coming from and the historical background of where I was coming from. So we put all the songs out there. We actually recorded 12. 11 made it onto the album, and we recorded it in 3 days. It was a very short, because he lives in Australia, so we needed to I had to grab him when he was available. He's just so busy that he built it into a period of time when he was over doing some work, I think, for the New Zealand Ballet Company, and we recorded in 3 days, and then I did a lot of backing vocals in my home studio in between moving cities. I just moved to Otahi, Christchurch from Auckland, so it's been a big year. And then we did the mixing process across the ditch, because he lives, I think he's in Brisbane. We just moved through the album production that way, and we had it mastered by Cog, Chris Chetland, who's well known. And he did a great job too. So that was the album. And alongside that, before I moved from Auckland, I teamed up with one of my dear friends, Jackie Nairn, who's a director and actor, and a fabulous DOP, director of photography, David Paul, otherwise known as DP, the DOP, who I worked with years ago.
The DOP,
I worked with him years ago on a TV show called Insider's Guide to Happiness, and he heard my music, really loved it, and wanted to support it. And so they both came together as the kind of key team members, and we made 3 music videos.
That 2 of which are out. 1 is about to be released, right?
1 is being released, on Friday in 2 days. So they sit together, and I think with Motherhood, because the concept which the album is based on is such a complex subject, and it's a hard one to kind of pin down and wrap up simplistically. So it kind of needs to have the light shone on it from different angles and for different themes to come through, because they're all held together within the same world, and nothing's mutually exclusive. So it was actually another friend who was going to direct, Katie Wolf. She's another amazing friend who came up and said, I'll direct it. She had to step off it in the end, and Jax picked it up. So I had these amazing people from the acting industry want to support me with my music, which was awesome.
Nice.
But it was Katie who suggested. She said, Sal, I don't think it's just one song. I think we should do 3 music videos.
Right.
And so I thought, far out, that's a bit epic. But we managed to do it, and we got it done. We got it in the can, and we made that body of work before I moved to Christchurch.
Don't wish it all away. They say, what the fuck does that mean anyway? I don't see no one else here to help today. I don't see no one else here. Guilt dripping through my veins. I got guilt dripping through my veins. What do I have? Guilt dripping through my veins. What is this? Guilt.
Yeah, we're just releasing it, and that's pretty much the history of how it all came together.
Very good. All righty. So the thing, that overarching thought that I had when listening to the songs as a whole was the subject matter itself is one that people are going to have an emotional reaction to no matter what you do. And people have, there are thoughts and preconceptions about what all mothers should be like. And you probably break many of them along the way in the lyrics of your song. Were you concerned about that? Is that what your purpose was? What's going on there?
That's a great question. I think back in the days when I started making the show, because essentially it's the same kind of thing. It's talking about my experience, which I can't alter, and I can't try to mold to fit anybody else's experience, but I kind of fold in the many conversations I've had with many other women along the way, which kind of gave me this call to arms to do it in the first place. So I speak from a point of personal experience. I think that every mother has what I think of as a matrix of things, that aspects that make up our particular situation. It's a socio-political position. I'm a feminist, and I'm an artist, and so I'm going to be outspoken, and I'm going to be looking for equality for women. And I come from a generation which is different to my mother's generation. My mum raised me as a single mum, so I come from a place where I feel like women can do, but also have to stand on their own at times and not be afraid to speak out. My mum was a bit of a trailblazer in the 70s, so I come from that kind of generational background, as well as coming from a lot of it's the baby boomers, right, who were the children of the war children. So there's this kind of handed down kind of unspokenness of just get on with it and do it and don't complain. But I think we're of another generation who are really questioning some of these things. So there's that too. There's also my personal temperament, what I am as a human being, and what my weaknesses and strengths are. And there are women who just make amazing mothers. They seem born for it, and they're happy to have 5 children, and they seem happy to be at home without needing to get out and have a career. And that is their devoted thing that they do so well. I, on the other hand, am an artist, and I realized very early on in the picture that I wasn't going to be happy if I wasn't working as well, and that I would be a better mother if I could feed myself the things that I was yearning for. Tricky when you're kind of, I guess, reading lots of feminist books and getting a bit unhappy about the social expectations that seem to be unspoken about, So it's kind of like this meta of me folding inside or in or out and out and out, in terms of having to kind of do the work that feels very kind of what's the word? Controversial, perhaps, in a way, or it's not going to sit well with everybody. But I mean, that's art, right? We make art not to please everybody. And so I've had to really stand inside of that. And I've had some amazing responses from so many women from my show who would come up to me in tears at times, or very, very moved, and say, thank you, I feel seen. Where can we hear the music again? So I think the kind of call to making the music came from standing the show up, seeing that it had an audience and it has a demographic who I think really feels seen. And that comes from women in their 20s right through to my mum's generation, who's in their 80s. So some women, I think, in that generation have also fed back and said, it brings it all back for me. And
Right.
I've had all kinds of responses, a lot of supportive, really resonating comments. And yet I also know that it's not for everybody. Art is not for everybody. Plus my statements are not for everybody. Yeah.
So when you were writing these songs and recording them, did you feel free as far as I can say this, or did you feel restrained as was there things that you felt you couldn't say?
No, I felt free. I feel like artistically, I think it's really important to say what you need to say and get it out. And it's cathartic. And then, of course, you do the weeding of what makes a good song or what makes what makes this pleasurable for myself, and thus is it
Yep.
going to be pleasurable for somebody else. So yeah, it was freeing, and it has been freeing. And then really it's about releasing it into the world and just letting it do its thing, because it's in some ways I've just been reading Rick Rubin's book on what's the title of it? The Artist. Do you
Yeah,
know it?
everybody keeps recommending me that, and I haven't read it yet. But you're like the
It's,
fourth person who's told me I need to read it, and
it's
you're
so
probably
great.
right.
You're so great. It just sits on the coffee table and I pick it up and I read one very short chapter and then I meditate on it. I don't. I just think about it, or it seeps in somehow.
Right.
And the latest thing I was reading yesterday was about how art is not our responsibility. We follow it, we do it, and then we let it find its place out there. And I
Okay.
think that's a nice thing to be able to, much in the same way, words of Bowie. Don't make art for the what does he call it, for the for
The masses.
the masses. Well, he's talking about the theatre where people sit up the top. I should know
Oh,
that.
okay.
Yeah, but he talks very much always about making work for yourself, and not
Right.
making work for other people. So I think you really have to, what the result of that is that you end up having to stand by something that might be slightly explosive.
So with that in mind, did making this record and writing these songs change you?
Change me? Gosh, that's a big question. I think, yeah, I think it's helped me to integrate myself, definitely, because I think motherhood in itself, from the early days of becoming a mum, and to say, look, I'm into my 10th year now, so I only have that much wisdom and perspective, but it's a process. And just like life is a process, right? We never reach the destination. So it's really about becoming a mother is such a learning, and it never ends. As my mother says to me, it never ends. You're still learning. You're still figuring out how to be the best parent and how to be yourself inside of that. So yeah, it's changing me, and it still is changing me. Yeah.
And what do you think men will get out of this record, if anything?
Well, I've had two really great reviews, actually more than that. I've had one great review from a male just a couple of days ago on the album, and I had a couple of incredible reviews from males from my theatre show. And I just was really heartened by that, because I don't want it to come across as excluding men. It's more an opportunity to look inside and see what the experience might be for many or some women. So it's an opportunity, I would say, rather than, for want of a better word, an attack.
Yep.
I mean, what I think feminism is about. It's about empowering women to be equal. It's not about reducing men.
Right. Yes.
There's often those are misconstrued or confused. Yeah.
But there seems to still be some work to be done, obviously. Looking at the American election that just happened last week or whenever it was.
Yeah, and looking at the Taliban recently just passing a law, was it, to stop women singing and speaking to each other. I mean, it's horrific. The spectrum of treatment within patriarchal societies for women ranges from horrific to deeply embedded, and work to be done, like you say. I mean, crikey, you're in the best country in the world, I think, to be far away from America right now.
Not by accident.
Absolutely. I mean, my commiserations too. Let's hope it's a very, I don't know, short term, right? And single term.
A learning experience.
yeah, absolutely. But I'm really also heartened to see the women out there, and I would hope men. I'm seeing mostly women in the protests with the placards and the banners and really powerful messages. It's like, when causes happen, it's like Treaty of Waitangi right now too, with the protests, right? They happen because the actions against these parties or people or groups of people are outrageous and they're inhumane, and it creates protests. So in a similar way, my album is a very small call to arms over questioning societal expectations that are engendered, deeply embedded, not spoken about enough, unrealistic, and create massive amounts of relentless tension, I think, for women with making choices in today's modern world of how to balance these expectations that we carry and that we put upon ourselves too. It's not just men, and it's not just it's the whole society. We're all groomed, and boys and girls, to be particular ways. And I guess this is my book or chapter or story looking at my issues, and I would love to see men's stories too, looking at parenting for fathers and the difficulties that there are for boys being men and having emotional freedom and all the kinds of things that we need more humanity and more vulnerability in the world, more kindness, I think. So I hope that I know that the album is challenging. It's empowering and challenging, but it's also an opportunity to kind of open into the underbelly, which can be soft and vulnerable, as well as less attractive to look at.
All right. Now, let's hopefully we can touch on a couple of tracks on the record. The opening one is called Far and Wide. And when I was listening to it, I was kind of making little notes, and I was like, I wrote dramatic vocal performance. And I realized, well, that makes sense. You're an actor, so it would be. How much of your acting background affects your vocal performance?
Don't think I'm abandoning you when I run. Don't think I'm abandoning you. Oh no. Don't think I'm abandoning you when I run in the night to the sea. It's just the way that it works when it's all been famine for family. And don't think I'm abandoning you when I run in the storm and it gathers me. I'll see you in the morning. It'll be right, child, it'll be alright.
So as an actor, I did quite a lot of vocal training with a particular pedagogy and company that I like in France called Roy Hart. And they work with singers, dancers, and actors, all performers, and they umbrella the speaking voice and the singing voice as one. So you don't really think about your voices and now I'm singing and now I'm speaking. It's more of an instrument for sound. So my background is very much just enjoying the voice for its capabilities and exploring myself inside of that with the emotional journey, of course. So I guess that's how I approach my singing. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just want to have a much more casual, smaller, intimate delivery that doesn't go somewhere. But I think that the tension of the song, which is essentially it's about escape or needing to escape or feeling like escaping when one can't. And then it goes into, it's kind of like a metaphorical escape. Like the video, if you watch it, has me running away down to the beach and into nature. Obviously, I don't do that with my girls. I don't actually bolt and run away from them, but it's kind of like an interior escape so that I don't snap and become kind of the mother that I would be ashamed, or I am ashamed to be when I do snap. Because I mean, let's face it, we all snap as parents, and I have had many times snapping, and I have had harder times and harder periods of my life when once again, we come back to that kind of carrying of guilt, which is so unnecessary so often, but we're sort of laden with it. It's very hard to parent and not feel that.
Right.
So I think that the height of that kind of emotion comes from that tension. Yeah.
Do you think what your kids are going to think when they hear this music eventually?
Yeah, well, they're in the videos. They're in all three videos, or
Right.
I think. So no, they listen to it.
Poured over the lyrics.
There is a swear word in one of the lyrics, and they do look at me and go, "Oh, there's a naughty word." But
Yes.
in terms of it, I think that when they understand it, they will be of age to appreciate it.
Right.
Like they'll probably be mothers or young daughters wondering what that's about. But I mean, the album also has songs about deep love and deep devotion. So it's kind of like being a real parent. It's kind of like that philosophy of parenting and saying, hey, I'm actually really angry right now with the way you're behaving, rather than saying, could you just be good? Or it's actually letting my child see that her mother has an interior life, and I am a human being, and I am dynamic,
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, sonically, you mentioned that this album was made in like 3 days with Eden. There's a song called "Uncovering Me" with this kind of interesting drum sound. So, just to give an idea of how things work between you and he, and coming up with the music, can you maybe go into that and tell me how that came about?
Sink into the shelter of your mother. You're your mother now. Sink into the shelter of your father too. Turn away from the turbulence to the sparkling joy. You're amidst it all, like a baby unaware of it all.
Yeah, so we just rocked into the studio, and we had 12 songs to get through. We just picked, I mean, this is why I love working with Eden. He's so intuitive, and he doesn't really come up with a massive plan. He's not sort of structured like that. So we just started on the song that we felt we wanted to first. And for example, what we'd do is I had done some demos, so we knew what the basic song was. Eden would often start by laying down guitar if it called for guitar, or bass. He's instrumental. He did everything. I just played piano where it was needed. And he played bass and guitar, which often held the root of the song, or keys came in after. Sometimes we worked with a click track, sometimes we didn't. Sometimes we worked with half a click track on a song, and then we ditched it for the rest of the song. And then he laid some drums over top for some of the songs, and particularly for Uncovering Me, the one you're talking about, that's got really great drum track. I wanted something quite tribal and something, a lot of kind of kick with it, a lot of earthy kind of sounds for that. For some reason, Fleetwood Mac just keeps coming in to my head. Some of their great drums.
Tusk.
So
Boom, boom,
yes,
boom,
I was just
boom,
about to say, Tusk was in the back of my head. So that's how we got the bulk of the songs down, and then Eden did an awful lot of either sampling or adding more guitar, or adding synths, or I'm not sure how much synth he used. Other things from Australia later. So we got a lot done in 3 days. Yeah,
definitely. It doesn't sound like a record that was thrown together, that's for sure.
Thank you. That's great to hear. Phew.
So the record's out on Friday. What are your plans going forward, as they say, in the future?
I'm going to take a break for Christmas because it's been an epic year,
Yeah.
and then I will look at how to put this together live. I've yet to figure out whether I'm going to put a full band together and represent music like that, and or have a much smaller thing like myself and maybe a guitarist. I'm thinking. Or a trio. So that's live performances next, starting in Christchurch, and then I'd love to come up to Auckland and Wellington. I might keep it quite small,
Okay.
petite,
Yep.
and go from there. Yeah.
Cool. That sounds like a plan. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, I will let you go and plan for your release day. See, hopefully you'll
Yeah,
have fun on.
wonderful. Wonderful. It'd be great if people feel like finding me on Spotify or Instagram or Apple. I'm everywhere basically. You just Google my name, and pre-saves are available still for the album. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to just sharing the music with as many people, women, mums, dads, anyone who wants to check it out.
If you enjoyed this episode of the 13th Floor's Music Talk series, please be sure to subscribe to the website or to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram and wherever you find your podcasts. There's a whole lot more to discover.